What you're looking at here is a demonstration of the issues surrounding using a template and a checklist, interactive electronic, to review a profit and loss statement for staff, junior staff, for example, bookkeepers, accountants, and for, in particular, offshoring. This is how you get it right. This is how you know when you're offshore you can get it right. You're taking advantage of basic technology, software that everybody uses, you're putting it together in a coherent checklist, and you're making it into a tool for people to learn as well as to deliver accuracy and control the product that you're trying to produce. These templates are part of a structure of templates that are available when you have an expert software system. In other words, what the expert software system does is line them all up sequentially. So what you're looking at here is a system to review a profit and loss statement. Imagine someone in the office, a bookkeeping firm, has produced a profit and loss. You now want that individual to have a logical way of checking the quality of that P&L. You can leave it to chance, or you can actually check. It also, as mentioned, is designed to be a training tool. So for each of the fields, and this is a P&L of certain types of expenses. You can imagine you could, if you're in practice or running a bookkeeping firm, list all the expenses that you think are relevant for the clients that you have, and then provide instructional information on these templates for your staff or for your systems. I have only dealt with, in this video for length, on sales and motor vehicle costs. Each one of these has information, but the gist of the way it works should be easy to follow. You have a series of answers that you provide. It's either not applicable, which might be the case for certain types of expenses. There's an information tab which gives you some useful information about that particular expense. There's a check field, which is where you've done that particular work and reviewed it. And there's a query of things that have come up and you want to then send information to either a senior staff member or a client. So let's say you've got a profit and loss, it's been printed out. The accountant, bookkeeper, small business person is looking at this and thinking, okay, here are my numbers. Let's go to the master template, which will have sales as a review area, and let's see if I've got any problems with sales. There is an information tab, so you would click on that, and that opens up effectively another checklist. But it's the linking that makes it work. That's the whole concept behind an expert system. You're providing logical links. So this asks a series of questions. Now you can add to these because every accountant, bookkeeper, small business person will have different issues that can affect sales, and they'll be aware of different problems that have tripped them up in the past where they've got into strife, and you learn from that and you list them as part of your review system. So for example, review any unusually large deposits for sales that may not be income. Now you need to look at that, and if you've done that you would click off on it. And there's a series of things that you do there. For example, do sales seem logical? How do they compare to last year? That's something you need to think about. It may only take a minute, but it's an important logical check about the nature of income, since income is so important in terms of profit, tax, banking institutions, in terms of lending, and many other areas. So you'd need to review that. All that's really happening is you're getting access to that checklist. You're getting access to the thoughts of a senior staff member, be it accountant, bookkeeper, or someone within the business, so they can help the junior person understand what's critical and what isn't, and it's all in a logical step. Now when that's been completed, you then can check off that that particular area has been done. You may, though, for example, have a query that comes out of it, and again it's about lining up things so that they are easy to access. So let's say, for example, there is an issue with sales that you're not sure about and you need to ask. You can then easily link that to a work paper, and again all work papers can be electronic. In this particular case it's an Excel spreadsheet type work paper. I'll just downsize this a bit, and there is a series of work papers within that. The one that we're interested in this case is a things to do, and then in here you could type in the issues surrounding sales. So there's a problem with sales, say there was a large deposit that needs reviewing. You could put details in there, captures that information. That can then be accessed by a more senior person, or can be shown to a more senior person to have it checked and reviewed. You don't have to deal with it right there and there. And this is, again, is an important thing. If you're offshoring in particular, the person can't get back to you straight away, or you don't even want them to. If you're outsourcing and one of your staff members is on maternity leave, he or she may be working at midnight. They need a way of getting information to you at a time that you can look at it, not when they're creating it. So again, if that happens, that can be followed through. Now let's just take a look at motor vehicle expenses. Again, we're sort of going the same direction as sales. It's a review process. So let's open up the information sheet here, and the purpose behind showing this, and again this is just one of a series of comments that you can show that might be relevant for vehicle cost. So for example, a lot of accountants would know this, in fact I hope most do, you don't need fuel receipts for cars. Now there are a couple of issues in that, forgetting some other areas, GST bits and pieces, but you don't need fuel receipts for cars. Now that's often not known, or it might not be known, particularly if you're bookkeeping and you're trying to teach junior staff. So you're reminding people of that. You've got a hyperlink here that allows you to quickly access the website where this information is contained. From that website you then have the ruling. Now the ruling's there, but it's a case of putting the information where you want to find it, when you need to find it. That's how these systems work, because it's at the time you're reviewing the motor vehicle account and expenses that you need to know about this. Now, more senior people, of course, get to know this, but even then it can be useful as a way of finding these links. Next query, for example, the next thing to follow up, is there any evidence that the client's total kilometres travelled during the year for motor vehicle fuel means that an underclaim has occurred? This is not uncommon. People code into their, this is clients, code into their MILD file, QuickBooks file, the receipts for fuel, but they don't code in potentially all the fuel they can claim because they're often paying cash for fuel or they're using a private account or whatever. So there's a motor vehicle fuel calculator. Again, this is made available so it's easy to access. Now this was something that came off the internet. It's not particularly comprehensive intellectual property, but there it is. It's a summary of petrol expense estimate worksheet, and I've done a bit of work to it to convert it into a more interactive document. So for example, the average fuel consumption for the car per 100 kilometres, let's say that's 9.5 litres, so you can put that in. The average price of fuel, say $1.52, and there are some fields. The total kilometres travelled by the car, let's put that in, 45,000. And that gives you an estimate of fuel costs for that particular car. Now if you've only got $3,000 worth of fuel, you might be wanting to tell the client there's a potential for some deductions there if you can get onto it. Now what this is doing is helping your junior person learn this sort of information. It's also at a logical place for them to want to find it. Finally, it often impresses clients because you're saving them money. Now again, you need to know what the price of fuel is, or you need to know the fuel consumption of cars. Fuel consumption of cars, there's a link here. You can open that link, and again, this is an internet site. Keep saying this, the internet has a mass of really, really useful information that costs you nothing. Trick is linking it, making it available so that your staff can use it. That's where the clever money is, getting access to all this free information and bringing it together. And when you're offshoring, for example, someone who's processing these accounts in India can then hyperlink to this website and can see what needs to happen. And you can explain this website. You could, as an introduction through the links, put in an audio that would explain how to use this site. It's a case of making people familiar. And then there's another site here which gets into issues surrounding costs of fuel, and it has all the information regarding that. So again, all available. These websites are always there. Most people know where they are. It's a case of making them available to people. So there's another example of how this sort of information helps train, helps learn, helps get deductions, helps convince people you know what you're doing. So you follow through on that one. This one here, motor vehicle recoup, private use adjustment required. Now, again, accountants, bookkeepers, a lot of people will be familiar with this. It's just about making the junior people, the offshore person, the outsourced person, making sure that they can see this easily. So motor vehicle recoups, again, what we have here is always, it's a really nice ATO website tool for doing this. The ATO have a multi-million-dollar site. Make sure people access it at the time they need to use it, and in here you can do a motor vehicle recoup calculation. Luxury cars, this is another issue that might be relevant. Again, you can click on their luxury car tab and you'll get some information from the ATO about luxury cars. Now, this can have different levels of complexity. you can imagine with the motor vehicle checklist, what you're doing is trying to explain the key issues regarding that claim, motor vehicle fuel and oil regio and repairs. It's all about making sure that as the owner of a business, as the bookkeeper in charge of a practice where you have staff, that you can easily use this sort of system, this sort of software, to provide your staff with a really useful way of capturing information, how to learn, how to be accurate, how to impress clients, how to save people money. When it comes to offshoring, this system allows you to explain to someone offshore what to look for, how to look for it, why they're looking for it, and then it produces checklists for you to then review exactly what has happened. So basically the idea is you go through and check off all these areas. You can refer to the notes as you go through them. This then effectively becomes a standard worksheet. In this case, it's been presented as a profit and loss with numbers, but you can imagine this is an XYZ statement where the specific accountant, bookkeeper, etc. can look at it. For example, if there's no superannuation or wages, they click off and it automatically says NA and it's been checked off. So in essence then, the expert software system, and there is an article you need to look at on this, explains how it overlays all these templates. These templates form part of a comprehensive, easy to access solution to all these areas, be it profit and loss review, balance sheet reviews, check and GST, reconciling wages. When you run a practice, when you're in a bookkeeping situation, if you're a small business client, there are always critical areas that you know that if your staff knew would make your life a lot easier. And staff who want to learn often find this sort of thing really useful because it gives them access, and you can put in place areas where they have to sign off and present accounts like a work paper book, which effectively is what is happening when you access something like this, where you've got reconciliations, accounts receivable, wages and super and all these different areas, inter-entity loan reconciliations. You can create these worksheets that effectively give you the feedback so that your more junior staff can do much more interesting things, or your offshore staff can be instructed in detail, and you can rely on their intelligence to get it right, because ultimately you do the same thing with your staff.